Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. Now in this video we are going to implement a different graph which is undirected weighted graph. If you remember, we already implemented this graph which was our directed graph and unweighted graph. We don't have any weight and we had only one single direction. So that's why it was directed unweighted graph. And now we are going to implement undirected weighted graph. Okay. Now here you're going to have weight on edges. Okay, which is going to tell how strong the connection is between from node A to node B, between two nodes basically. So if you add an edge from A to B, you will have to make a connection from B to A as well. Basically that's all it means. Now either we can implement this from scratch, right, or we can make use of the code that we have already implemented in our directed graph. So I'm going to reuse the code as much as possible, and I'm going to show you whatever I'm reusing, how it is effective here. So we have removed all those references from the other class. Okay, now what are the changes that we have to do? So here besides having just graph node class, we are going to have a graph edge class as well, right? So let's create that edge class first. Okay, graph node from and graph node to, and this is going to take wagst weight, which is our integer. Now we are not going to store list of nodes for the values. Now we are going to store edges. Let's take that. What other changes we need? For add node we don't need any other changes. For add edge, yes. Now this is where you're going to need the change. So now when you're making the connection between those two nodes, right, you are actually have to add an edge here with the weight, and same thing you're going to repeat from to node to from node as well. So this is what I mean. You're going to have an edge which is going to take your from node to node and the weight, and this weight you can have as an argument as well. So this is where you're going to pass the weight. This is going to your to node, and you also need one more connection from to node. Now this will be your to node, and this is going to be your from node. Perfect. So this is the change that you're going to do in your add edge method. Okay, now let's uncomment this and try running to see if you are able to get the undirected weighted graph or not. Okay, so we are getting C is connected to A. That is correct. Now A is connected to A to B, and A is also connected to C. Now B is connected to B to A. So if you look at the output properly, this C to A and B to A are actually the reverse connections of A to B and A to C. So that is how you know the modification that you done in this add edge method, right, are correctly done, because you are getting your output correctly. The connections that you made, right, they are getting properly. Now the implementation is fine till this point. Now, but if you look at this code, right, this is not actually object oriented. Now we know that nodes can have the list of edges, but here we have the nodes and adjacency list separately. We can actually make edges as part of the nodes itself. So list of edges here itself. So now when we have removed that adjacency list, right, and we know that edges can be part of nodes itself. So in our graph node class, right, we are going to add the list of edges. The edges are part of our graph node itself, right? Our implementations are failing. Now let's fix those. Let's remove it from here and add it here itself. Perfect. Now this become a one-liner code. Now let's make the similar changes in add edge method as well. Let's remove this. Okay, now let's create a add edge method. Now you need to have a method to add an edge. How do you do that? Let's create that method here in your node class itself. Add edge method public. void add edge. This is going to take the graph node 2 through which you are making this edge. Now the weight, now from the edges list that you have right there, you're going to add this new graph edge. This is the source current node, this is the destination, and this is the weight. We have written graph edge here. This is supposed to be graph node edg. Now let's use this method here in our add edge implementation. How do you use that? So from node dot add edge to, and then weight. This is going to be a to node. Same thing you have to repeat from to node dot add edge from node comma weight. Your print method is still failing, so let's fix that. Now for each of the node, right, what we need to print, we need to get the edges so that we can print those. How do you get that? So node dot, okay, we have an access to edges, but we are going to implement a method get edges so that we follow our object oriented programming properly. Let's create this method there. This is going to return list of edges, and inside you can return the edges. That's it. You are returning edges, perfectly fine. Now here you are using node is connected to targets. We don't have any error and we have followed our object oriented solution as well. Now let's try running our program and see if the changes that we have done are not affecting our implementation. And they are not affecting. So A is connected to B and C, B is connected to A, and C is also connected to A. So as you can see, our connections are working properly in our undirected weighted graph as well. And that's how you implement it. So that's all as part of this video. See you in the next one.